I think. Oh, looks like we're ready to start. Let's get started, everybody. Part 1. We're going to start with the acknowledgement. This book could not have been where it not for the generosity and the spirit, talent, and daring of many people, who then could possibly be named in the short page. All right, this one's just dedicating. So we'll move on from here. Forgive me, friends, for making you a madman. Oh, by persuading you to believe, as I did myself, that there have been formerly and are now knight-errant in the world. I don't know who that is. Let's keep going. Prelogue. Jose Sacromango. In 1721, with a fiend innocence that couldn't conceal his tart sarcasm, Charles Louis de Secondant asked, quote, Persians, but how is it possible for someone to be Persian? It's been almost 300 years now since the Baron de Montesquieu wrote his famous letters, Parsanas. And even today, we haven't succeeded in putting together an intelligent answer to this most essential of all questions on the historical agenda of human relationship. As a matter of fact, we still can't understand how it was ever possible for someone to have been a Persian. And furthermore, as if such a particularity were not out of the question, to persist in being one day when the world seeks to convince us that the only desirable and profitable thing to be is what in very broad and artificially conciliatory terms is customarily called Western. In mentality, fashion, tastes, habits, interests, metas, and ideas, or in the all too frequent case of not succeeding in reaching such sublime heights, to be westernized in some bastard way, at least rather through force of persuasion or in more radical ways of persuasion, should fail. To be Persian, is it Persian? Let me make sure. I'm going to make sure. Let me make sure. Let's make sure. Hold on a second. I'm going to make sure. It is Persian, just making sure. Is to be someone strange, someone different, in simple terms, to be the quote other. For the very existence of a Persian has been enough to disturb, confuse, disrupt, and perturb the working of institutions. The Persian can even reach the inadmissible extremes of upsetting what all governments in the world are most jealous of, the sovereign tranquility of their power. The indigenous were and still are Persians in Brazil, where the landless now represent another type of Persians. The indigenous of the United States once were, but have almost ceased to be Persians. Persians. I think it's... What's Persian? Is that Persian? Or am I reading it wrong? Am I reading it wrong? Do I have it right? Someone tell me? I'm reading it out right. It's right. Okay, good. Okay, Persians. Okay, thank you. Just making sure. Where was I at? All right. In their times, Inca, Mayas, and Aztecs were Persians, as were and still are their descendants. Wherever they have lived and still live. There are Persians in Guatemala, Bolivia, Colombia, and Peru. There is also an overabundance of Persians in the painful land of Mexico, where Sebastio Salagandos, requiring rigorous camera drawn shutters from us with the challenging figures facing us. We then ask, how can it be that you Westerners and Westernized people to the north, south, east, and west, so cultured, so civilized, so perfect, lack of modicum of intelligence and sensibility necessary to understand us, the quote Persian of Chiapas. It is really only a matter of understanding the expressions of those looks, those solemnity and simplicity of their grouping, feeling the thinking together, weeping and the same tears in common, smiling the same smiles, understanding the hands of the sole survivors of a slaughter, held by protective wings over the head of our daughters, understanding this endless stream of living and dead, this lost blood, this acquired hope, this silence of one who was born centuries of demanding respect and justice, this suppressed anger of one who has finally weird of hoping. 6 years ago, changes were introduced in the Mexican Constitution in obedience to the neoliberal, quote, economic revolution, directed from without and were mercilessly applied by the government of bringing agrarian reform and redistribution to an end. This reduced to nothing the possibility of landless peasants to have a parcel of land to cultivate. The indigenous thought they could defend their heroic rights or simply their common laws once, in case it was assumed that indigenous communities had no place in the history of Mexico, but organizing into civic societies that were characterized, and still are, by their singular insistence on renouncing any kind of violence, started with the one that was their due. Those societies had the support of the Catholic Church from the beginning, but that protection was of little use to them. The leaders and representatives were jailed repeatedly. The systematic, implacable, and brutal persecution by the powers of the state and the large landowners increased in conjunction with and under the shadow of the interests of the privilege of both. These prosecutors violently expelled the indigenous from their ancestral lands in the mountains and the jungles many times over, becoming the last refuge of the peoples displaced. There in a dense mist of the heights of the valleys, the seeds of rebellion would germinate. The indigenous of the Chiapas aren't the only humiliated and offended people in this world. In all places and at all times, regardless of race, color, customs, cultures, and religious belief, the human creature we are so proud to be has always known how to humiliate and offend those whom with sad irony he continues to call his fellows. We have invented things that don't exist in nature: cruelty, torture, and disdain. By a perverse use of race, we've come to divide humanity into irreducible categories: rich and poor, masters and slaves, powerful and weak, wise and arrogant, ignorant. The incessantly in each of these divisions, we've made subdivisions so as to vary and freely multiply these reasons for disdain, humiliation, and offense. In recent years, Chiapas has been the place where the most disdained, most humiliated, most offended people of Mexico were able to recover, enact a dignity and an honor that had never been completely lost. A place where the heavy tombstone of an oppression that has gone on for centuries has been shattered to allow the passage of the processions of new and different living people ahead of an endless procession of murderers. These men, women, and children of the present are only demanding respect for their rights, not just as human beings and as part of this humanity, but also as the indigenous who want to continue being indigenous. They've risen up most especially with a moral strength that only honor, the dignity themselves are capable of bringing to birth, the nursing in the spirit, even while the body suffers from hunger and usual miseries. On the other side of the heights of Chiapas lies not only the government of Mexico, but the whole world. No matter how much of an attempt has been made to reduce the questions of the Chiapas to merely a local conflict, those solutions should be found within the strict confines of the application of national law hypocritically, malleable, and adjustable, as has been since once again, according to the strategies and tactics of the economic and political power to which they are surrogate. What is being played out in the Chiapas Mountains and the low Candan jungles reaches beyond the borders of Mexico to the heart of that portion of humanity that has not renounced and never will renounce dreams and hopes and simple imperatives of equal justice for all. As that figure, exceptional and exemplary for many reasons, whom we know by the name of the Sum Commandant Resurgenti Marcos, has written, it is, quote, a world where there is room for many worlds, a world that can be one and diverse, end quote. A world, I might add myself, that for all people in all times declare untouchable the right of everyone to be a Persian.